Hello, Mark Rydzy. I own Pauway Corporation, Rayco Metal Finishing, and Connecticut Laser and Engraving in Connecticut. Pauway is a paint and powder coating facility. Rayco is a electroplating metal finisher, and Connecticut Laser and Engraving is a part marking company.
Hey there, I'm Natalie Hurd. I own Champion Powder Coating in Gastonia, North Carolina. It's right outside Charlotte. We do powder coating. We have an automated 1,100-foot conveyor line and a batch side, 3 powder booths, 2 ovens. We do a lot of large parts up to 30 feet.
Hi there, I'm Cody Whitehead. I'm the operations manager for Advanced Precision Anodizing over in Oregon. We specialize in Type 2, Type 3 anodize, chem film, masking, laser marking, and media blasting. Really, our niche is really hitting all of those departments for every customer. It seems to be like that in that area is really the struggle point, is getting something through chem film, masking, and anodize within a reasonable lead time.
Awesome. So we have a pretty wide variety here in terms of services offered, coast to coast, different roles and responsibilities within the company. So I guess, Mark, we'll start with you since you're the first here. As users of the portal and RFQ, how have you used those critical features or functionality to compete and win?
One of the biggest selling points of Steelhead for me was the customer portal. I know that the immediate feedback I've gotten from all of my customers has all been positive. You know, they love the transparency of it. Prior, the number of phone calls that we would receive for, oh, hey, I lost a packing slip. Can you send me a copy? Oh, hey, I can't find the cert. Can you send me a copy? Send me a copy of the invoice, what have you. Now it's all go to the portal, phone call after phone call. What's the status of my job? What are my parts? Hey, go to the portal. So that part of it has freed up the office staff to be able or to be able to focus on other things instead of just answering routine phone calls that come in every hour. The RFQ part or portal or module has been great for me in particular. With having multiple businesses, we get a lot of RFQs from our websites and through email. For me, I manage 7 active email accounts. Being able to forward those email RFQs directly into Steelhead and having not only the drawings there or any other attachments, but also having the email thread, having the contact information, and being able to generate the quote right from a single point without having to go back into Outlook, find the email, okay, here's the attachment, download that, look at that, then go back into the quoting software, create the quote. Being able to do that from a single source has not only allowed me to be more organized, but to turn around quotes faster, which, ultimately is, again, what the customer wants, or, I think they were saying earlier, 9 times out of 10, the first quote in is the one that ends up landing the job. So those 2 aspects of Steelhead have really, really kind of revolutionized the way we have been processing our orders and our job and interacting with customers.
Oh, that's incredible, Mark. Natalie or Cody, maybe outside of portal and RFQ, how have you used Steelhead to revolutionize the customer service aspects of your business?
I think from promptness to respond, having information at your fingertips, things that you might have to wait and look up and call them back on, being able to just look up whatever it might be, like, oh, we want to expedite something through, or are you running this color, whatever it might be, just having the information there, and you don't need to walk around 40,000 square feet to find whatever they're looking for. Just the responsiveness has been huge.
Awesome. Cody, anything to add to those 2 points from a customer service perspective?
Yeah, I'd tie on to that same thing. Getting a phone call, jumping on to Steelhead and being able to say, hey, look, your parts are in racking. We'll go figure out what's going on, or here's a rough timeline. We're still ready to hit your due date. Or, hey, these parts are in inspection. I know you want to come pick them up in the hour. Oh, hey, this operator's also been working on this for 35 minutes. It's probably almost packed. Go ahead, head over. It'll be ready for you in our shipping department in an hour. The response time that you can get to your customer, I mean, in the industry and what I hear from our customers is you can never get a hold of anybody. You never know where your parts are. And if you can solve those two things, really the job just start flowing in. And that just takes a little bit before someone leaves one company, joins another machine shop is now at your avenue and hitting parts on your door. And you just never know what relationships those turn into. But being able to give information on where a part is, what process it's in, within just a few seconds on the phone, it's hard to compete with that.
Cody, I agree. Having that granular production tracking is game changing. Yeah. What would you say it's enabled outside of customer service, and what does the future hold for APA with that granular production tracking?
Man, it's been a year of really understanding what do we want Steelhead to do for us. So the more we dive into the many offerings that we probably still only utilize 25% of Steelhead, getting a game plan of how we want to move forward, the limits on some of our control systems that we run in the background, but we want to tie into Steelhead to make auditing just streamless. I think there's a huge amount of possibilities. I really don't see any huge flaws in the next coming 6 to 12 months for us and what we're trying to achieve. And I think there's some things that we will be able to do shortly that nobody else will be able to.
That's exciting. Can you speak to any, or tie in that production tracking to any specific business results, if you're able to share?
I don't have anything just hard written. I'm more finicky when it comes to data. Like, I like to know that data is true. So, but I can tell you, just having the data that's available. We've had a customer that has scaled over the last really 18 months from going to 400 parts a month to now they're doing about 30,000 parts a month. They're just had a $200 million acquisition. Staying ahead of them, I definitely could not have done that without Steelhead. The data that was available to me, where I can see where their parts are, I can see what kind of volumes running up in our shop P machines, what kind of colors are now hitting. I was well ahead of them before they ever knew it was coming. And then that transitioned with their private equity group that came in. They're like, hey, we want more visibility. And it was just easy to turn around, like, what would you like to see? They list off, hey, I want to know if it's in racking. I want to know if it's in QC. I want to know if it's in laser. I want to know when I'm getting my parts. I'm like, oh, here's the portal. What else would you like? And it just kind of, the tone of the conversation shifted. And I was like, okay, once again, we're ahead of you guys. We're prepared for your growth. We're here to be partners. And that just really, again, just sets us apart.
Oh, that's remarkable. Natalie, you touched a little bit on visibility from a customer service perspective. Visibility is one of the core outcomes that we seek to unlock and achieve with our customers. How has that visibility impacted you personally or in the role that you serve?
Yeah. I mean, we bought the shop 1.5 years ago, and it was a mom and pop shop on paper, and what's in the shop, who knows, right? Like, you couldn't find where anything was. Everything would take so much time, and there was no way that I was getting involved with any organization where I didn't have data. I couldn't see what was going on. And just the act of putting sales orders, getting the purchase orders in, putting it in the system, great. Flows through the process, and then what's ready to ship, right? And from that, getting to print out labels onto my pallets that are wrapped up, ready to go with, this is exactly what's on this pallet. I'm putting this pallet on the truck. I mean, the amount of time we save just from those two processes from the get-go. And having that visibility into what we have, I mean, Watchtower, best feature ever. Like, wasn't expecting that, and I'm in that every single day, being able to see where things are at, filter search based on different parameters. I mean, it's huge. And then lastly, visibility of what I'm quoting and special instructions going in there. It used to be, oh, we're going to need a package a certain way, or I'm going to need to prep it or plug it a certain way, and I need to remember to manually write that down. If we ever get that order in, I quote it, I put it on the part number, it's going to print on our job locators, it's going to be in Steelhead when they need to process those parts, whether or not I knew they were coming. And that's been huge, that visibility top down for the team actually doing the work. They have all the information they need to be successful the first time.
That's amazing. I would say visibility is probably synonymous with Watchtower. And that's how that came to be. So awesome. Mark, I know you're a super heavy user of RFQ and the portal. And that's why you said you purchased and signed up with Steelhead and we partnered. What's been one unexpected thing about Steelhead that's enabled you to compete and win?
The plating company I purchased 2.5 years ago. Again, it was a mom and pop plating shop, 70 years in business, small company, 15 employees, with the majority of them being long-term employees, all master tradesmen at what they did. However, they were running QuickBooks and that was it. They had no process control documents. They had no procedures. So all of the operators had tons of tribal knowledge. And, my background is sprayable coatings. So getting into electroplating, I was a little bit out of my element where, my operators knew significantly more about the process than I did. Having Steelhead and having the ability to upload photos and videos, I was able to capture all of the processes that each of these master tradesmen were doing it, and not only being able to develop the process and the procedure, but then to use those as training aids for new employees. And instead of having just a set of written instructions, it was, here, watch this. And then here was, Joe, who has been doing this for 35 years, walking through every step in the process. And they're able to either, watch a 1 to 2 minute video, or they're able to, look at photos of, each tank, each rack, each hook. And for me, being able to capture, that experience and that knowledge has been paramount.
Have you hired anyone new and had put them through that process as a test?
We have at Rayco, I had a new guy started about 3 months ago, and kind of like with all my guys, they come in, they, bottom of the totem pole per se, doing either, packaging or racking. But as he's progressed now and started moving into either assisting with the tank operators or running some of the smaller lines on himself, absolutely. I've gone and been like, watch this. And, we use a mentoring program a lot with training. So he's paired up. But prior to that, it was, those were part of his training requirements was, understand the specs that you're working to, understand the process. Okay, here's a visual presentation of the process, the steps that we go through. And, the transition for him was seamless. And I think that was because of the preparation that was done leading up to him actually being released to operate.
Yeah, tribal knowledge certainly can be looked at as a liability, especially when that person with 30 years is no longer with the company. Now what? Big black hole. Natalie or Cody, anything unexpected from your experience thus far with Steelhead?
Yeah, I would say my initial driver of implementing Steelhead was specifically digitizing, bringing everything in more from a operational standpoint of what I was going to manage, my team was going to manage on a day-to-day basis. The result has been we get new customers walking through the door and they are so impressed by our system. They love seeing that they see everything's documented, they have the color, they see the special instructions, they see how we package it, how we put the labels. That type of service, I wasn't expecting that to be such a selling point because that isn't frankly the intention that I was going into it with. And even when we've had vendors come in and do audits and stuff, like they're just like, oh wow, this is great. Oh, you have it here? Oh wow. Like they're just so impressed. And that was unexpected and really great.
Oh, Cody, anything unexpected from the APA?
That actually kind of ties in that same thing. The amount of response I've gotten from customers when we do walkthroughs of just not having paperwork on the floor. All of our drawings are digital or available on a file share. Being able to recall any of their parts at any moment if they needed to, see which purchase orders we have. Everybody's just kind of blown away by the fact that you don't have paper travelers out on the floor. You don't have something that can go missing, or you're not relying on a guy that's been racking parts for 10 years to remember what they sent you 6 months ago, but you get that same part every 6 months. And if you ever had turnover, you just get away from on-the-job training. There's so many tools available for a new person to walk in and follow up on what somebody might have been doing for 10 years and be able to just seamlessly follow them as long as the instructions are written. And that's gone a huge distance for a lot of our customers. And it's gotten our foot in the door with a lot of aerospace companies. It's allowed us to kind of get some deviations away from NADCAP and do some pretty critical work.
I kind of asked Natalie this earlier, but Mark or Cody, personally, your jobs, have they changed at all? We heard from Dina yesterday, adding a lot of responsibility because she was able to get back a lot of time back in her schedule. How have your roles changed with Steelhead?
I mean, my roles changed dramatically. I used to spend 6 hours of my day tracking down paperwork, looking for parts, making sure the documentation's correct, or the team can't find a part, so I'm gonna run out there and I'm just gonna go verify that I'm not gonna make a phone call to a customer because one of my team members said, I don't know where this is. I'm gonna go quickly just do a double check. I don't do hardly any of that anymore, and we've scaled so much further than back in those days where we had 30 people and it was easy around 10, 12,000 square feet. Now we have 22,000 square feet. I don't need to run around the shop. So it's saved me an immense amount of time. It saved me time in figuring out rework travelers, what's causing our rework, being able to diagnose what's really going on. So my role's dramatically changed in the sense of that I can't imagine at the scale that we are today trying to do this out of QuickBooks like we used to. There's no way.
And I'm sure it's safe to assume I'm not using too fat of a crayon to draw that to competing and winning, that time saved with Cody.
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a winner for us. Probably since we launched in 2023, we've almost doubled our revenue. So
that's incredible. Mark, anything from you?
The consolidation of data, of having it in a singular source, we went all in with Steelhead, so we got rid of any of our accounting software, went with the native accounting. So for me, having everything in a singular source or a singular spot where I can go in and not only see, work orders and sales orders, but to be able to see bills and invoices and to see labor hours, and just to have the amount of data that Steelhead produces in an organized environment where I can pick through it and filter it the way I want to filter it to try to get to where I want to get to or see what I want to see has been very enlightening to me, and much easier. Whereas before, either switching back and forth between different softwares or, even going from my office to the AP office or the AR office and getting different reports. Now everything is on everyone's screen per se, or everything's in single source. So I don't have to go take a walk to go get some information. I have it there. And with the RFQs again, having them consolidated into a single source or a single spot has freed up time, and time is money. So the quicker you can get through those, I can spend my time doing, either pursuing new revenue streams or entertaining new customers or researching new markets.
Well, yeah, Mark, that access to data and not only going from your office to AR or AP, for you specifically, how far apart are your plans?
But it's
Rayco to Pauway.
Oh, Rayco to Pauway.
And running two enterprises, how has the access to data?
Oh, that part is great. I mean, my two facilities are 16 miles apart, probably about a 20, 25-minute drive, which isn't horrible, but having the flexibility of having web-based software, whether I'm in Middletown, I can either quote or answer a customer question about my facility in Wallingford or vice versa. As well as if I'm at home, it gives me or here, it gives you the flexibility to have access to your entire system, access to all of your data anywhere there's a web connection. And having that flexibility allows you to be in two places at once per se.
Awesome. Natalie, you talked a little bit about new customers coming in and blown away by the digital nature of Champion Powder Co. What has the experience been like for your existing customers in terms of competing and winning as a business?
Oh, it's been great. So right after we took over, we sent an email to all our customers, and there was one customer in particular that had dropped all work with the previous owners, and when they invited us back in to have some conversations, we told them about the changes we were going to make, the software we were going to implement, our turnaround time in quoting, our consistency in quoting. And we brought that customer back on, and they're one of our top 5 customers.
Wow.
Just the changes we've been able to see, it's like a very clear change of we mean what we say, like we're making changes, we're progressing, we're moving into this century. And it's been extremely positive. We're not heavily using the customer portal quite yet. mostly because we want to use it as an opportunity to touch our other customers we haven't gotten in front of, to have that same conversation of, look at us now, look at these changes we're making. But for the ones that are in the customer portal, I mean, they love it, right? They get the pack list there, they see their quotes. It just makes everything so much easier with those conversations. And you make these little changes over time and you see that progress, you can only assume other things are progressing that well internally as well. So it's just been very positive.
Yeah, perception is reality. Is a real thing for sure.
And it also gives customers some peace of mind and more confidence in doing business with you when they see you reinvesting back into your own company. That you're not just pulling money out, but that you're putting money back into it, and that you're making improvements to help with transparency, to help with accountability. And you're doing things to strengthen that relationship. It definitely gives you an advantage over, competitors who aren't taking those same kind of proactive measures to, solidify those relationships.
Cody, anything from the sales front from APA? I know that's not your area of expertise, but anything that Steelhead's enabled from that front?
I think, again, kind of just as customers come in, you have a resource that a lot of our competitors don't. We also just have, from a sales side, we've kind of grown inherently just by word of mouth. But again, you get someone who might be using a vendor that's 4 or 5 times the size of us. And so there's always a concern when you come to a shop that you may view as smaller, you may view as not having capacity, and us having the tools to say, okay, well, what are you looking for? What time frames are you looking for this in? And by the way, here's where I'm coming up with these numbers. Here's what that capacity may look like for you. Are you interested in continuing to work? And that gets our foot in the door. And that's 90% of the battle, right? You get that conversation going. It's usually easy to pull the customer in, and it's usually easy to get a trial run. And then you just obviously have to do your part from there. But really the battle is just getting your foot in the door. And again, right, I mean, from shop tours, I mean, a lot of people want to come do a shop tour. They want to look around. No one's actually there to guarantee you any business, but they want to see what your team's doing behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. And so the shop is clean. There's no paperwork on the floor. We have all the information that you're going to want us to. That's an easy sale.
Have you gone through any customer audits?
We have several of them. We've gone through some aerospace audits to get on ASLs. We've gone through some customers who are, like we just did one 2 weeks ago and got good feedback and should have some trial parts here shortly, but they're an AdCap supplier only. They're just struggling in our area to find vendors that can keep up with the volume. They came through. They were really happy with what they saw, the traceability that we have. Really, at this point, the only thing we're missing is immersion time traceability, but that'll come very shortly. So we just get good feedback, and we have a good control system in the background running all the data, so that's also very helpful. But that's one part of the equation. Steelhead has been the completed the other part of the equation for us.
Any memorable reactions from customers as they're walking through the plant and they see the technology? I'm hoping you've had to pick a few jaws up off the floor, but
I think the common thing I get that always surprises me, because I've kind of just grown up in a plating shop, is everyone's just like, wow, this place is really clean. And that's usually the jaw dropper for people. And I'm like, oh, it's a little rusty, but it's better than some other places I've seen. It's better than some other photos that might have been presented here initially, that we go, hey, this is an old shop that's 30 years old. This is what it looks like when you don't take care of it. So that's usually the big driver. But again, part of the cleanliness for us, Steelhead just not having paperwork everywhere, that's been a big game changer to us. We have labels out on everything. We got tags. People can scan it. You know which job it is. You know which work order it goes to. You know which customer it is. You don't have a lack of visibility on that part that's over on that shelf. And that's really the key thing that I think Steelhead lets someone from 10 feet away really recognize, okay, yes, you do know what you're doing.
Awesome. I want to ask, what's next each of you in the next 3 months? What areas of the business are you going to dive into as the next lever for growth, as Andrew puts it, for competing and winning?
Introducing the rest of a lot of the modules we haven't done with Steelhead yet. So specifically inventory management. We want to introduce the QMS as well as the specs, and actually getting to utilize the features that are already there to help with decision making and maintenance. maintenance along with inventory for things like filters and things that take 3 months to get. Just making sure we have stuff on hand ready to go. We just need time and space in order to implement things effectively. So in the short term, being able to finish out some of those rollouts of those additional modules.
We're here to support. Mark, Cody, any big areas to focus on in the next 3 months?
Might be a little further than 3 months, but we got a 32 Hink hoist line ordered and ready to go. So I'm excited to finally get some scanning capabilities up and running. We've already kind of beta tested it with Steelhead, so I'm excited for that to get here, implement some more controls, and kind of see where that takes us. But it should be very fun.
Well, what's driving that sort of investment, that decision?
Capacity. I mean, we try to keep our lead times around 2 weeks, but I have customers that'll wait 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks for multiple processes, and so we really want to drive these lead times down. And the only way we're going to do that now is tank time. So we run 2 shifts, 5 days a week. Right now we got a graveyard running as well temporarily just to help out. But there's a need, so it's time to go after that and continue to serve the customers and get our foot in the door with some other larger vendors.
Congratulations on the growth. Mark, any big plans for this year?
Since we're new to Steelhead this year and haven't really completed a full business cycle or a full business year, I'm looking forward to using the data to determine what our next steps are going to be, what our next capital investments are going to be, what areas do I need to focus on, what areas am I focusing on too much or spending too much money on. That's probably the number one on my list is looking forward to populating the system with enough data and then being able to analyze that and make the decisions based off of what we've gathered.
Data's king. Putting yourself in a position to compete and win is not easy. And it takes a lot of leadership, it takes involvement, it takes a full team effort, not just one individual that we have here. What's worked well for getting the rest of your team to march to the orders, fall in line, and get on board?
With anything in business, it has to be that top-down mentality, and you can ask for buy-in, and you can hope for buy-in, but it's ultimately the culture that you set. I mean, prior to us deploying, we had several town hall style meetings with the entire company, just letting them know, hey, this is direction that we're going in. This is what the company's investing in. Asking them to, trust management that this is going to be the best thing for us and for them long term, because obviously, if the company does well, then they're going to do well. So having those meetings prior to deployment, just kind of letting them know, hey, this is where we're going. This is why we're doing what we're doing. Once we finally got to that step, they had been hearing about it for months in advance, so they were ready and they were eager. And after years of dealing with paper and pencil, now they get to play with their fancy new iPads. So a little bit of pride in themselves and feeling a little bit not more important, but just oh hey, we're stepping up in the world. We're going from clipboards to iPads. It's a big deal. So they take pride in that, and they're proud about that, and that's reflected through the company. And even during customer visits, they come in and they see people walking around with iPads. It's like, hang on, this is a paint shop. And it's like, it's our new system. We're all digital, and the same thing with the the labels and the QR codes. They're like, oh, what's that and what's this? I've had a lot of conversations about Steelhead just from customers' curiosity. So it's been good.
Natalie, Cody, anything to add? Or any questions from the floor?
I got a question for Cody. I would like to congratulate you on the new line that you plan on getting.
Thank you.
One question that what you mentioned with this addition of capacity, you seem pretty confident in your current capacity of what you have. I'm curious how you came about this knowledge and what your confidence is in that value. Like, are you fully utilizing your current equipment to its maximum potential?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of controls running around the background that really tells me all my operating parameters, how long each bath is being utilized. And so we're still running 2 shifts. We work a quite a bit of weekends just because we cannot keep up with the amount of work that's coming in. We still have a significant demand from our top 10 customers of when are you guys going AS 9100, when are you guys going NADCAP? We have so much work, we need to send it to you guys. The demand is there. Getting forecasting from some of those customers as well to understand their needs prior to us building this line has been huge as well, because there are customers we deal with that say, I'd love for you guys to go NADCAP. That's awesome. Do you guys do $500 a month in NADCAP work? Do you guys do $1,000 in NADCAP work? What is that? Oh, well, I can't tell you. Okay, well, I'm not really going to focus on your need at the moment. And then we have some of our top customers who are like, hey, this is our forecast. This is what we're currently doing. These are the contracts we're locked in for the next 7 years. We need you guys to get there. We're struggling. We're shipping these parts that are, 60 pounds down to California, and then we're freighting them all the way back up here, and we're doing 80 of these a week. We need you guys to get NADCAP. He's like, it saves our aerospace company money, saves us money. It's a win-win for everybody. When are you guys going to do that? And so just understanding their needs and getting clarity from some of your larger customers has been huge for that. Confidence level, it's always there, but you don't know what the next 6 months looks like, right? Could be a downturn. There could be something that happens in the industry, but we're pretty well diverse in firearms, automotive, aerospace. We're pretty well diverse in sporting goods. Typically when we see something taper off, something else picks right back up, and we've really never had that struggle. So, I always like to say that the confidence level is there, but you truly just don't know. But the data that we have, it's looking like there's a pretty heavy forecast coming.
Excellent. Well, thank you three. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Cody.